Hello class, my name is Dr. Anne Wanjiko Moiro, the unit lecturer for BEP 1104, and the unit title is Introduction to Educational Psychology. We meet, my dear students, once again for our lesson to just briefly remember what we did during our last lesson. We defined the term psychology, and we said that psychology is the study, the scientific study of mental processes and behavior. That's what we said. And I told you that initially there was no psychology. It was studied under a branch of philosophy. We went ahead in our lesson and we looked at the goals of psychology. We said there are 5, remember? We normally describe, we normally understand and explain, we normally influence, we normally control, and we can even be able to predict 5 goals. You can be able to predict the behavior of our learner. We said in the history there was no branch called psychology. What there was philosophy. And psychology now was studied within. But as time went on, certain aspects of life could not be explained from the philosophical point of view. And that is how a new branch became born, a independent branch, and which we credit to no other than Wilhelm Wundt in 1879 when he set up the first psychology lab in a university like Mount Kenya, but that university was called Leipzig in Germany in the year 1879. Then we went ahead and looked at a number of branches of psychology, but now our focus will be the core of this unit, which is educational psychology. So in our lesson number 2, this is the outline of the lesson, my dear students. One of the things we are going to do is we shall define now in details the term educational psychology. Then we shall look briefly at the history, but this one I will give you as an assignment to do. Then I will focus my efforts on the goals of educational psychology. And then I shall look at the nature of education psychology, and shall be able to finish our lesson by looking at the scope of education psychology. And in this scope, our concern, my dear student, will be the learner. We shall also be interested with the teacher. We shall be interested with what is called the learning process. We shall be interested with what we refer to as the learning experiences. And we shall finish by looking at the learning situation or the learning environment. Remembering what I told you last time, we said that educational psychology is that science that is concerned with the interaction of the teacher and the learner. But primarily, what does the teacher do? The teacher uses psychology to be able to understand his or her learners, so that at the end of the lesson, these learners are able to benefit greatly from the interaction or from whatever he or she is teaching in class. So we can therefore say this, my dear students, that educational psychology is one of the branches, now it is clear, one of the branches of psychology that studies the behavior of the learner in relation to education. So as a teacher, we have to understand the behavior of our learners, because we know very well when our learners are not well disciplined, when our learners are not well behaved, for sure they will not be able to learn effectively. And that is why, as teachers who are well grounded in psychology, it becomes very easy for us to be able to handle this behavior of the learners, so that, as I have said, they can be able to benefit from the teaching, learning, learning process. So therefore we say this, that as a specialized branch of psychology, we say it is concerned with suggesting what? Ways and means of improving the process and products of education. So every day, every time I go to class, I must be concerned, how can I become a better teacher than I was yesterday? How can I be able to teach in a better way? How can I make sure that as teacher that all my students are raising up their hands to answer me a question or to challenge me by asking me a question? Those are the things I should have as a teacher when I'm going to class, so that I can make this interaction with my student as positive, as good as possible through my now knowledge of psychology, so that that they can able to benefit, as I've said, from the teaching learning process. So when we apply psychology, how does it help us? It enables us as teachers to be able to teach effectively and the learners to learn effectively with minimal effort. Because there's something we are going to look at in our next lesson, which is called motivation. And as teachers, what should we strive for? That our learners have internal, they have the intrinsic motivation. And how can we do so? It is only by using the knowledge of psychology. We inspire them. We reach out for them. We become better friends with them. That we will be able to draw the potential that is within them. And for sure, they'll be able to benefit from this education process. So we are therefore saying this, that education psychology, it's a surface of education. It's a surface. Psychology is a surface of education. There is, as I said from the beginning, no able and good teacher can be able to teach effectively without the knowledge of psychology. And what has psychology done? It has simplified the task and improved the efficiency of the teacher and all those connected in the process and products of education by supplying them with essential knowledge and essential skills. That as a teacher, when I enter class, how should I start my lesson? You have heard me say, hello class, good morning class, good afternoon class. What are you doing? You are building a relationship, and that is psychology. You are building a relationship of friendship with your students, so they can know you are really concerned. Go out and ask them, how was your night? How was it like? Do they have an issue? Is there something you'd want me to hear? Address. Oh, that is psychology. And you are smoothening or evening the process for your learners to be able to run efficiently and be able to run effectively. Now, the next thing we shall look at, my dear student, is what we also call the goals of education psychology. So, just like the goals of psychology, we also have goals in education psychology. What do we want to achieve as teachers in education psychology? What do you want to achieve? And the first thing we say is that education psychology provides a body of facts and methods which can be used in solving our problems. It provides us with a body of knowledge and facts to be able to know that for sure, my dear student, if I have a good relationship with my class, if I have built a rapport with my class, if my students see me as a friend, for sure, they'll be quick to want to receive me in class, they'll be quick to want to do my assignment, they'll be quick to want to perform well in whatever I am, in whatever I'm teaching them. So that is what psychology does, provides us with the body of facts and knowledge that makes our teaching and their learning as effective as problem. Or whenever there are problems in class, I'll be able to know how am I supposed or how am I likely to handle those problems in the class. Then we say the other goal is that it helps us to develop scientific and problem-solving attitude. Why are we saying scientific? We are saying scientific because some teachers in the past were teaching through what is called the unscientific methods. Unscientific methods is where teachers teach using things we call common sense, thinking a student can study anything, any subject. Even when they are supposed to choose, instead of giving them a chance to choose what they are good in, we are choosing for them, which is not right. Thinking that a teacher, because you are called a teacher, and you have only trained for me, in my bachelor's I trained for history and CRE, I've been taught to teach mathematics. That is unscientific, because for sure I'm not well grounded in mathematics, and for sure I will not be of benefit. I will not be of great essence to my students. So with the knowledge of psychology, it helps us to be scientific and have a positive attitude whenever you are solving problems. When I encounter a problem in my class, let me not look at it personal, that these students are hating me or these students are against me. No. As a teacher grounded in psychology, mine is to find out what could be the reason, as we said there in the beginning, what could be the reason why these students of mine are behaving this way. Suppose I change my mode. Suppose I make myself a friend of the student. Can I be able to motivate them in a better way? And for sure, you're going to achieve as a teacher. The other goal of education psychology is to train in thinking psychologically about education problems. That when we are well grounded in psychology, we think in a positive way. Yeah, we think psychologically. Yes, as I said, when a student drops a spoon at 12:20 like now or whatever time, when a student drops a spoon at whatever time, I should not think that this student of mine is only thinking about the stomach, for example. When I think psychologically, I'm imagining that maybe this student is telling me, Mwalim, teacher, change your way of teaching. Teacher, we are bored. You know? So whenever I have issues in my class, I should not look at them from a stereotype. I should look at them from a psychological point of view and try to address the issues that are affecting my interaction with them. The other goal of educational psychology is to enhance theoretical knowledge of the basic psychological processes. That what psychology does, it gives us a ground for the psychological theories. For example, we are going to study about the cognitive development theory in our subsequent lessons. And to help me have a base to understand that as a learner in Form 1, in terms of their mental abilities, in terms of their what you can call their mental age, you cannot compare them. You cannot compare the mental age of a Form 1 with the mental age of a Form 4. So as a teacher, I should be able to know that I can never teach content of Form 4 to the Form 1 student because they will not be able to conceptualize. In the same way, unless I am revising a lesson, a Form 1 lesson to the Form 4s, I should not teach a new lesson to the Form 4 because that will be too cheap for them and they are likely to get bored and they are likely to misbehave. That is what you are saying. When we study psychology, we are assisted theoretically to be able to know what to do at whatever time in our classes. And generally, when you use psychology, the education practice is going to improve. We are going to see marked grades in your class, in your mini grade of the class, marked grade in the mini score of the school, and generally, your school will be ranked higher when every teacher embraces the knowledge of psychology and uses it in class for the betterment of all, for the betterment of all the students. My dear students, I can tell you this out of experience. Because I've also taught, for example, in high school, and you realize that two teachers one can be teaching maybe from 4 West, and then the teacher is teaching from 4 East. And when it comes to the mini grade, you realize that one class has performed better than the other. Why? A lot of the time, and the teachers are different, a lot of the time it has to do with the personality of this teacher. How much has he used his psychological input to be able to inspire and to be able to propel the students into what you can refer to as a better performance. So it's very good for us to be able to know that whenever you use psychology, generally the education is going to be better and students will perform well. What is the nature? What is the characteristic of education psychology? We say that it is scientific. Yes, it is scientific. Education psychology is scientific. Why is it scientific? Scientific, it is because it is organized, it is systematic, and it's a universally accepted body. Yes, yeah. That whatever we do in education psychology, we do everything from a scientific point. We are not. We are very objective. We are not subjective in the way we deal with our students, in the way we deal with the matters of the school generally. We have a positive attitude as teachers. Whenever I'm waking up to class, I'm happy because I'm meeting my students and I know I'm contributing to their good. And that is what you're saying is the nature of educational psychology. Then we also have what we refer to as the scope of educational psychology. And as I've portrayed in this diagram, you can see the scope is in red. And one of the scope or one of our concerns in educational psychology, we are really concerned about this person whom we call the learner or the pupil. We also concerned about the learning experiences. How are the learners, as we shall see later, going to achieve this knowledge? The learning processes. Which steps am I supposed to use as a teacher in my teaching and learning? Then we also concerned about this person whom we refer to as the teacher. Very important person. Without the teacher, there can never be any learning. Yes, so the teacher, and then also the learning situation and the environment. This environment where I'm teaching, how is it? Is the room well ventilated? Is there enough lighting? How is it? We are concerned about that. So basically, this is what we call the scope of educational psychology. Now, we are going to look at each one of them, not necessarily in this order, each one of them one by one. As you can see there, I have portrayed a diagram of a teacher. You can see this is a geography teacher, and those are the pupils there. And the teacher is now trying to show them the globe, maybe the different countries of the world, Maybe like now it was like today in the geography lesson, maybe those countries that are greatly affected by the COVID-19, countries like Italy, countries like USA, countries like Spain and Iran and France, and even UK, showing them depending on whatever the runners are running class. And you can see these runners are very attentive, they are very observant, and basically that is what we should strive to ensure that all our students are concentrating on the content. They are all attentive, they are all giving it their best, whatever we are teaching them in this class. So there is the learner, as I have just shown you, and we normally say this, my dear student, that if there is someone very important in the education process or in education psychology, it is the learner. Yes. John Dewey says, unless a learner is learning something, there is no teaching taking place. So as a teacher, I must always have that in mind, that my learner must be able to learn something. And we say that the learner is the peak. If you are to draw a diagram, the learner would be at the climax, because the learner is the one who determines the methods of teaching, the learning process, and you must make sure that as teachers, the learners learn something. So we say that the subject matter of education psychology is knitted around the learner. Therefore, the need of knowing the learner and the techniques of knowing him well. I must know my learners and my students. Sometimes you are challenged as teachers. Do we make an effort of even knowing our learners by name? Because when you strive to know your learners by name, the learners really feel good. Teacher kumbe unanijua. You know, I can even give you an example that sometimes students call me, and using the Truecaller, I'm able to tell them their name. What are you saying, so and so? What are you saying, Anne? And I, teacher, you know me. You know, it is exciting to the students. So it is important for us as teachers to make a point of knowing our learners by name and knowing each and every learner and their abilities. Because in my class, I must remember as a teacher, some learners are above average, some learners are below average, and other learners are below average. But remember, all of them are going to contribute to my mini grade. So I must do what I can as a teacher to ensure that those that are below average are try to become average, and those ones that are average are assisted to become above average, so that we can able to work on their performance. So my dear students, you are saying this, that the learner has to be understood in terms of their innate abilities. What are innate abilities? Their inborn abilities. The inborn abilities. We shall learn a topic called personality development. It's one of the topics that you're supposed to study. And you shall realize that there are things a learner can never do about themselves. For example, the height of the learner. If the learner is tall, you know, you cannot use negative words against the height of the learner. If a learner is short, you cannot call them a dwarf in your class, for sure. Because what do you expect them to do about their personality? There are those abilities that are innate. Even when you are saying some are bright, some are average, some are below average, we must realize that they cannot all be the same. My role as a teacher is to try and strive to help those that are below average, I have said, to try and become average, and those ones that are average to become average, because all of them will eventually contribute to my mini grade. So I also need to understand the capabilities of my learners. As a teacher, I need to understand the individual differences. We said there that some learners are extroverts. They have an answer for every question. They keep your lesson lively. At the same time, there are also those learners that are quiet unless you draw them, especially by knowing their name and asking random questions. Those learners many times will never be able to tell you anything. So it's good for me to have that in mind in my class. At the same time, I also need to understand those ones I've called the overt, the covert, all those issues in my learners. These learners, remember, they are coming from different backgrounds. Like now, we have watched on the television, there are certain homes that with these issues of the COVID-19 or coronavirus, there are certain homes that basic needs are a challenge. I must have that in mind as a teacher when these students are coming to my class, that because of their different background, some are challenged. So I must be very careful about the words I use in my class so that I don't quasar them. I don't tell them something that is likely to affect their personality because of the environment in which they have come from. So all those are very many issues that as a teacher I must be concerned about, all I must be worried about, so that I bring all of my learners in so that they can all be able to benefit. I must also understand the characteristics of their growth. Here we mean Some runners mature very fast. Other runners mature very slowly. So I must be careful. I need to balance all my runners so that if they have grown fast, I celebrate their high rate of growth. If they've grown slowly, or they have matured late, we call them late maturers, then still I also need to embrace them and help them to feel appreciated in my class. I'm saying this, it's also good to understand how has this child grown all the way from their childhood. As I say, some may have very challenging childhood. Again, as a teacher, I will also be able to see how do I assist also this runner, so that at the end of the day, they can all be able to benefit. You can imagine my dear student, you do so much. Imagine, you do so much, you prepare the lesson, you expend a lot of energy in the class, and your students do not perform well. You know, it costs you nothing. It would be better you expend the energy, you bring them all in, they benefit, and for you, you shall really feel fulfilled as a teacher that you have done your very, very best as a teacher. The other one is the running process. The running process. You can see now here, I shown a diagram there of a teacher and the runner. And the teacher is trying to demonstrate something, and the runner is now being given a chance to do the demonstration on their own, because that is the way now. When the runners run to do things for themselves, they are able to benefit from the running. We refer to it as running by discovery, running by inquiry, learning by taking the initiative. The runner benefits more. So this is very good for me as a teacher to be able to understand that. So in the running process, we are saying this, that after knowing the runner, tumejua mwanafunzi, now decide what the running experiences are to be provided. Yes. Move from the roles, the principles, the theories of running. Yes. I have to make sure that every time I go to class, my runners run something new. Yes, I must make sure that they run something new. And how can I tell that in this running process that my runners have learned? From the way they ask me questions, I can tell that these students, for sure, they've got something in class. For the way they interpret issues in the class, I can tell they have a higher thinking ability. When I give them an exam, I evaluate their performance, I can tell this process of learning has gone on very well. So as a teacher, I must be concerned about the formal, the informal, and the non-formal processes of learning, so that at the end of the day, my runners are able to benefit from the teaching, learning process. The other scope is what we refer to as the learning experiences. Yeah, so make sure that as a teacher, you measure whatever the runners have learned. Don't leave a class before you give an assignment. Or maybe the last 5 minutes of the lesson, use what we call the question and answer method. That, you can be able to tell, have they got anything, or what am I supposed to do when I meet them during my next lesson? Will I reteach the previous lesson, or do I have the strength or the courage to be able to move on? So I must also appreciate that every learner in the class has got a particular learning experience. So I must embrace all of them, so that all of them at the end of the day can be able to benefit from whatever I am teaching them. Like now there, I've drawn a diagram for you, a diagram that I've portrayed there, that here now you're evaluating. You give them an exam. Yeah. At the end of the month, you give them a cut or mid-term exam, and then through that, or end of term exam, through that you're able to tell, within this 1 month, what am I, depending on what I've taught them, what have they achieved? They give you feedback. And then from there you can be able to see which topic am I likely to repeat, or which lesson am I likely to repeat. Or now if they are performing well, you have the confidence to be able to move on to the next lesson. Then we have what we refer to as the learning situation or the learning environment. So as a teacher, I must be concerned about this environment where the learning is taking place. How is it? Is the room well ventilated? Because if the room is not well ventilated, we say the brain slows down activity, and the runners are likely to do what? They're likely to sleep. So if they sleep, then obvious, they will not be able to benefit from the teaching learning process. If it is a sitting arrangement, let them sit in rows so that as a teacher you can be able to access all of them. And those ones who sit at the back, because we say there is something in psychology about students who sit at the back, as a teacher you are able to reach all of them. And you are able to see maybe those ones who are at the back who are misbehaving by having them sit in rows. You must also make sure as a teacher that there is enough writing in the class, so that when there is enough writing, you are able to see all the student, they are also able to see you. If there is something you have demonstrated on the board, they are able to see it clearly. So we must be concerned about this learning environment. And mwalimu, when you are grouping them, there is something we say in psychology, do not group them according to their ability, no. Mix them. We do what we call mixed ability grouping. Group the best students with the ones that are struggling, so that through the effort of the effort of the bright student, then the one who is below average can be able to benefit. But when you place them according to their abilities, those ones who are bright together, those ones that are slow together, then you realize that those ones who are slow, they are likely not to benefit from the teaching learning process. So it's good for you to mix all the learners together so that all of them can be able to assist each other in the discussion groups, and they can all be able to benefit from the teaching learning process. Then here now we have the teacher. I have given you an example of a teacher who has done something on the board, and the teacher is now focusing on the student. We can call that one Dr. Anne, although she's not the one teaching in class. And we normally say that the teacher is a potent force, yes, in the teaching learning process. Without the teacher, no learning can take place. Therefore, this teacher must be very keen about a number of issues. The first one is that the teacher must master the content. Never go to class when you are not prepared. We are going to study about a method which is called SQ3R method. Before you go to class, you survey the content that you are going to teach. Be prepared. Do not go to class, my dear student, with a textbook. Have lesson notes. Because when you don't have lesson notes and you're using the textbook, remember, first of all, you have to read, understand. In psychology, we say you conceptualize, and now you can be able to communicate to the students. But when you are well prepared, you have gone through these notes once, twice, and therefore you become very fluent when you go to class. What marks a teacher is the mastery of the content. And that is why in the university, you're going to study only 2 subjects in your areas of specialization, so that you can become a master in those 2 areas. So do not leave any stone unturned in mastering your content, so that when you go to class, you are confident, and when you have mastered your content, it gives you confidence as a teacher to be able to teach the lesson in the right way. Another very important thing that as a teacher you must be concerned about, it is your personality. That be a friendly teacher. Build rapport with your student. Become a friend of your student. A friend. Because when you are a friend of a student, when you know your students by name, you build a positive relationship with them. And it really helps them to be able to master the content and you become their friend. You shall hear them saying, I can fail any other subject, but not the subject for Mr. So-and-so, or Madam So-and-so, or Mrs. So-and-so, because of the good relationship that you have with them. You have also been students. And you remember there are times in school, when you're in school, that if you needed a physics textbook or a mathematics textbook, you had to use a proxy teacher to be able to borrow for you that particular textbook. Why? Because this mathematics teacher or this physics teacher or even this history teacher is completely unapproachable. And we are saying in our today's era, that must stop, because we are no longer using their scientific methods of teaching. We are a scientist. We are using the scientific methods of teaching. So it's very important for us to strive to become better teachers. The other thing we need to be concerned, and it has become a little issue in our generation today, in the 20th century or 21st century, it is the dressing of the teacher. We say, don't say, my dress, my choice. No. As a teacher who is a professional, we say you dress decently. And you, my dear student, understand what we mean by decent dressing. I am sorry to say, and I can be misquoted, that I find male teachers dressing decently compared to the lady teacher. So it's a challenge. And I'm a lady teacher myself. It's a challenge on our side that as teachers we must be able to dress well so that we set a good example. Alfred Badura says that to the student, you are a hero, imagine. So when they look at your dressing, they think this is the way teachers, this is the way we should dress. That we dress according to teacher so and so. Surely we are not, sometimes not always setting a good example to our students. So we must dress in the right way. There will obviously be times when we have conflicts with our students. How do we handle those conflicts? We must be emotionally controlled. Let us not bring emotions to the class when you are solving problems, because obviously there will be those one or two issues of collision path with our students. So let's be very, very emotionally controlled when you are dealing or when you are handling our students. And again, we must always make sure that because we are human beings, even if I am stressed out there, I must make sure that I do not bring my stress to my students. I must really make sure about that I do not bring my stress to my students. Because I will say, and I will always keep telling you, and you shall remember me for this, that if you have got an issue, you have two options, my dear student. You either leave your issue at the door of the house. As you lock the door, you lock your problems there. If not that, when you come to the school, you leave it outside the door. If you think it is good enough to carry after that, but be separated. You know, there are times when students look at you and like, let's look at her mood today. Is she okay? You know, because yesterday we really made a lot of noise to them. So as a teacher, we must really make sure that we are able to manage our emotions and be able to manage our stress so that we can become efficient teachers. And there is no way, again, you're going to call yourself a teacher who is grounded in psychology, and as a teacher, you're not even able to handle your emotions. You become a laughing stock to your students. So it is very good for us to really work on that. And as a teacher, I must also have the right characteristics to be an effective teacher. As a teacher, I must make sure that I inspire my student. Someone said that there are categories of teachers. There are teachers we call mediocre teachers. They are just there. They are just given a name, a teacher, you know. Yeah. But they don't contribute positively to the growth of their students. There are the teachers who just explain. They describe, they just explain. Yeah. There are the teachers we say they demonstrate. Yeah, they show how it should be done. But we say the best teacher is a teacher who inspires. That if it is your desire as a teacher, that your student become better than you are, and that is what is going to contribute to the good of your students in the school, and also to your self-actualization as a person, when you can see that out of your effort, your students have been able to become something. I'm sure every one of you, my dear student, will be happy that 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, you have met your student, and this student is successful. And the good thing about students is that students do not forget good teachers. They always remember those teachers who inspired them. It will be your greatest delight to see your students celebrating you for the good that you ever did, or the good that you ever contributed to their way of life. Even when the results are released, you always see students being asked, we can see you performed very well, tell us who was your best teacher, tell us how was your experience. And the student, they don't give a damn. They say, teacher so-and-so, were it not for teacher so-and-so, I would not be where I am. So I hope that each one of you will be celebrated as one, that is as one of those teachers, so that you can aspire our students to also become successful in life. And to come to the end, I have tried to demonstrate that for us to be able to teach effectively or become effective teachers, effective teaching, this now on the side of the teacher, it's about the professional knowledge and skills. I must be well knowledgeable. I must be able to know my subject matter. I must be able to control my emotions. I must be able to know how I am assisting my students. And then on the other hand, I must be committed. Committed. When there are bell rings, let me go to class. I must show commitment in my work. And when I start before the students, or I'm interacting with my students, let them see the motivation in me. Let them not be like a story I read of a teacher that every time the teacher would come to class, especially in an afternoon, tell the students that I sleep for the first 15 minutes. Sure, when they sleep for the first 15 minutes, are they going to benefit in the other 25? Obviously, they'll be drowsy, so they are not going to benefit. So teaching is about commitment, teaching is about being motivated, and teaching is about having the mastery, having a good personality, being able to control our emotions, and be able to handle our students in the right way. Now, before we meet, before we meet for our next lesson, it's so good for us to understand why a teacher should study education psychology. And one is because so that you can be able to understand the behavior of your students, understand them. And through education psychology, you'll be able to identify ways of assisting them to solve their personal and even the learning problems so that they can become better students. Another reason is it enables the teacher to understand how the environment, the way they've been brought up, the rearing environment, how it is, so that you can be of use to them. And through psychology, you are going to gain the techniques and the skills that are going to assist them or going to help them or going to help you as a teacher to be able to teach your learners in an effective way. With the knowledge again of education psychology, you are able to improve the teacher's ability to choose the design that is most appropriate. That when I'm teaching, let me not just use the lecture method, let me use the discussion, let me use the brainstorming that way, depending on the content that I'm demonstration, depending on the content that I'm teaching my student. And through education psychology, you're able to improve the teacher's ability to choose and construct appropriate measure of the best way of measuring how the students have understood or not. I'm able to evaluate in the right way. Which method am I going to use to be able to evaluate my learners? And lastly, it also helps the teacher to understand the individual differences in the learners. Yeah, why they behave, why are some social, why are others asocial, why are others willing to speak in class, why are others not willing to speak in class, and then I embrace all of them together so that they can be able to benefit from the teaching learning process. And as we come to the end, I want to leave you with an assignment. One area that I was not able to look at, but I did not do it deliberately. So I ask you, before we meet in our next lesson, you look at the historical development of education psychology. Now you go back and look at the role of Wilhelm Mudat, the role of Maria Montessori, the role of Pestalozzi, the role of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the role of John Locke, all those. John Dewey, the role they played in building education psychology to be what it is today. And with that, my dear student, we come to the end of our lesson, and keep safe until we meet during our next lesson. Thank you very much for listening to me.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.